God, I had an opening statement, and now I'm thinking about something a little different that I saw Ty. Ty's coming in here, and I feel like it's really cool that he's in here watching Summer League practice. I don't know if that happens every day or every team, but he's out here really kind of rooting the guys on, and that should tell you what kind of guy he is. I'm sorry this took a few days. We were a little busy with the finals and the draft and free agency, so happy 4th to everybody. I think I'd like to start off with this kind of first and foremost, and that is, the last 2 years have been the best 2 years of my life. And a couple of years ago, we decided that we were going to look at growing a team, and we had to break a team down that we thought was a decent team, but it wasn't good enough. And so I know some of you have said in the past that maybe we should have done that earlier. But, when you look back 24 months ago, 36 months ago, we were at a place where we needed to grow a team and really, I wouldn't say retool or rebuild. I don't know if those are the right words. But we knew we had to go in a different direction. And to be standing here, coming off an Eastern Conference Finals last year and a Finals this year is something, it's really hard for me to put in words because of how proud I am of a lot of people in here. Ty blossoming into this superstar and a player that truly can, elevate everybody else, making all NBA team to Siakam, making a big trade for Siakam and him growing here. He came here and we thought we had a guy that was going to be a finished product, and yet he has elevated his game. And then a bunch of guys like Andrew and Aaron and Ben and TJ and Obi, just completely elevating their games over the last couple of years. But I think the secret sauce that I think maybe overlooked a little bit is that the strength of our team is in our collective. And our guys completely bought into being a good group, both on and off the court. Like, I have never seen a group be so close on the court and but also off the court, and that's really fun for me to watch. And fast forward, we're 10 and 15 and struggling a little bit, and you see Ty really get his mojo back, and then we get Drew and Aaron healthy. And then we saw this growth again, and early in the season, this season, we weren't sure what we were going to be, but we always believed that we would come together. What that ceiling was, we truly didn't know. But I couldn't be more proud. And it's not just because of the wins. Everybody thinks, well, you get to the finals, you should be proud. But there's been teams that I've been on that have gotten into the playoffs, and it's been okay, but I wanted this group to have a lot of success because of who they are. And during the season, there were so many times where on individual possessions you could see what we were and what we are, and that is we work our butts off on defense, we pick up full court, and we are without a doubt the most unselfish team in the league. And for me, I always ask this question as I'm going home after a game. Do we play hard? Do we play smart? And do we play unselfish? And I can't remember one game where I didn't feel like that was the case. 82 games is a lot of games, but I'm just really proud of this group. Feel like you have a thought in your head of what you want a team to be, and you couple that team, our group of guys, with the best coaches in the NBA, and sky's the limit. The last thing I'll say before I take questions is, it is an incredible grind in the playoffs. There's high highs and low lows. Someone described it as misery and relief, and I'm not so sure it's that, but I remember specifically talking with Ty before Game 7, and I went up to him and I said, "How you feeling?" He said, "I feel great." And I kind of walked off, and he goes, "Are you nervous?" I go, "Yeah, I'm a little." I didn't want to say, "Yeah, I'm freaking really nervous." And he looked me dead in the eye and he goes, "Don't worry, we got this." And I remember walking into the game and him hitting three-pointers, and I go, in my mind, I'm like, we're winning this game. And we were 24 minutes and an injury away, but that doesn't take how I feel about this group. The coaches, Rick and Lloyd and Mike and Jenny and Jim, I mean, that was a master class in coaching this past year, and really 2 years. And it's a real credit to them that they got this team to where they did. And I'm hopeful that we can continue to do that. We have some challenges with Ty's injury, but, we like what we have. And I think, we've done the best when we've had a chip on our shoulder, when everybody counts us out in a series or a season. And I'm not so sure you should count us out yet. So with that, I'll take some questions.
You mentioned those challenges that injury now presents. How did that change what you view as your outlook for this season and even seasons beyond this coming up?
Well, when you look at kind of the East, the way it's broken down, there's been some major injuries and there's been some transformational teams kind of making big changes. But, you don't replace Ty. That's not. And if you do, it's in a collective. But you got to remember, we have a bunch of guys that are experienced. They've been in some of the biggest, toughest games. And I expect Drew and Aaron and Ben and Jarris, you know what you have in Siakam. Like, he's going to come back and he's going to play hard as can be. So I'm hopeful that people write us off. Let's put it that way.
I guess on that note, did Tyrese's injury ultimately change the way Myles' negotiation went? Did that make the ownership less?
I was wondering when that question was going to...
It was only been first or second. But
I would say this, that regarding, and I don't want to get into the specifics of Myles, because the truth is he gave 10 great years here. I loved having him be here. I hope I'm friends with him for a long time. I know this, that Herb Simon and Stephen Rails and the Simon family were fully prepared to go deep into the tax to keep him. And we really wanted to do that. And we were negotiating in good faith. But what happens in this league is sometimes you're negotiating, but because a guy is unrestricted, he has the right to say, that's the offer I want, I'm going to take it, and that's best for my family. And again, we were in good faith negotiations. It was a little surprising that, how Milwaukee created that. I don't know if, we always say in our conference room, there's cap teams that have cap space, and there's shadow teams that have cap space. You can go get, but it becomes very challenging by buying out or making trades, and hat tip to Milwaukee to do that. So I think the most important thing is we were deep in conversations with Myles, and then we saw that he'd accepted an offer with Milwaukee. Again, that's part of this business that is challenging. I can tell you this also, that there are two kind of things that I believe that is kind of fundamental to the league right now, and that is change is inevitable and expect the unexpected. And I can't tell you that we were fully expected for that.
Can you say if that negotiation would have been any different if Ty didn't get hurt?
I don't think so. Like, again, we keep Myles at the number we were talking about, or in that ballpark, because I kind of felt like it was still a little bit ongoing. And with the moves that we were talking about doing, we weren't trickling into the tax. We were over a second threshold. We weren't quite at the second apron, which is totally punitive. And I would never recommend for us to go in to the second, because there's so many restrictions. And you're seeing teams like Boston and a lot of teams saying we can't be in that.
Right.
And I don't know if that's considered the new hard cap. But I can say that we were prepared to go right up to that. So difficult to answer that question in entirety.
Just to be clear, did you have an opportunity to match or exceed what Milwaukee offered? You said good faith negotiations. I assume that was between yourselves and Myles.
It was me and Myles' agent. Right. And I just felt like we were working towards a deal. But again, when you're unrestricted, as soon as you hear a number that you feel like is good for you, then he had to, I think he felt like he had to take that.
Were you blindsided?
Blindsided? We did not see Milwaukee as that team. And, we would have been open on a sign and trade because it's sort of mutually beneficial, but we didn't get to that point, unfortunately. I saw Shams tweet it, and that's how I knew that Myles was taking that. But again, that's not, it's his opportunity, it's his right to say, hey, that's it, and I'm going in a different direction. But it was never acrimonious. It was always pleasant going back and forth. I think that there was a number he was trying to hit, and we were, I think we were in the ballpark, but that's my opinion. It must not have been for him.
When you saw, real quick, when you saw Shams tweet, what was your initial reaction? What did you do?
I think I was shocked. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, again, I thought we were kind of going back and forth in an open way, and we've done big deals with that agency, and they're great guys. I enjoy doing business with them, and we'll be doing more business with them. But Myles must have heard something in that said, I'm going to take it right now.
Kevin, what is Myles' legacy? Just how this franchise is where it is right now?
I mean, I think he's one of the best players that's ever played here. I mean, I put him right up there. 10 years, again, change is inevitable in this sport. Unfortunately, you're not seeing these teams that are together for 4 and 5 and 6 years because of the way the cap is structured now. I like some of that, and some of it's very challenging for a team like us. But again, I can't reiterate this enough. We were fully prepared to go deep into the tax. We were into sort of that third tranche of paying taxes if we were to keep what we wanted to do together. But I remember some big blocks that he's had, some big shots, and more than that, what he did to this community, what he was about off the community. And there is no better person than Myles. Like, we really wanted to keep him, but it didn't work out. And I think what we'll be doing, and this is more of a Rick's question, is we're going to have 3 or 4 really good centers that will come in and compete for a starting position. And we've always done well when there's a lot of competition at a position. And I have a feeling somebody will raise their level and give us a chance to have a good player. But I love Myles. I hope that him and I can be friends for a long time. But you're going to have to ask him some of those questions. But he's meant everything to this organization because he's gone through some tough times, and he stuck with us. And there were some times where we stuck with him and gave him a pretty big extension in the earlier one, and we front-loaded at some point in time, we're going to be able to come back and reflect on it. Right now, there's some rawness probably on his side and our side too. But we've had changes in the past, and it doesn't feel like that at all. It feels like he made a decision for his family, and Herb Simon, myself, we fully understand it.
Kevin, how do you, I guess, replace a player of that caliber, just knowing how much he meant to the franchise, and you perhaps don't get that far without him, looking at this past season?
How do you replace Myles Turner? There are no, unless he's got a clone, I'm not sure you can replace Myles Turner. But, you know, we traded for Jay Huff. We're signing James Wiseman today. And then we still have one person we're close to finalizing that's been on the team, and we know him. And I think those three players and Tony Bradley, we have an option on him. I think those guys will compete for that spot, and we'll see who wins out. You see it in this league all the time that there are a lot of really good players in the league, and at some point when given opportunity, guys can really grow into it. Now, sometimes they don't, and that'll be our job. The other thing is, I think we've proven as a staff that at the appropriate time we will get super aggressive. It may not be a center, it may be another position, or it may be a combination of players and we bring back. And we're always opportunistic for that. Now, whether we get that done tomorrow or at the trade deadline, I'm not sure, but I always feel like that we're always looking for an opportunity. And there's some value players, and then sometimes you go for the home run. And Tyrese was the grand slam, and Siakam was the home run for us. And I don't want to promise that, but I kind of feel like that there's that out there. It hasn't presented itself today, but we're ready for it, and we're ready to put in picks and all kinds of things if it helps us take the next jump. And I think we've proven that kind of the last couple of years that we're not afraid of risk. It's always a risk when you do that. When you make those big trades, you never know how. Like, I remember when we did the Tyrese trade, you know, that was a tough sending out a 2-year All-Star, but it was good for them, and it's been good for us. So we're not afraid to look at a big trade and pull the trigger.
You just said you're signing James. What made that the right move? Basically, what have you seen from him in rehab, and what made you guys confident in investing in him?
We saw a lot of potential in him in the preseason and going up until his injury. Very long, very athletic, becoming a better shooter. I think he's getting to that point where his injuries allowing him to get on the court and not full, but do a lot. And I think Jim Boylan has done a great job with him and Isaiah, quite frankly, this shortened summer. And they'll continue to work. And again, you don't replace Myles, but a combination of those players are we're going to have to rely on.
How did Tyrese feel if you even talked to him about Myles leaving you?
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday, but that's between me and him. That's a very private conversation.
You mentioned an internal guy. Is that Isaiah by chance?
That's a good guess. I don't know if I can say that until yeah, we're moving a good direction with Isaiah. And quite frankly, when I think about Isaiah and what he did in the playoffs, not this year, but the previous year, he had some big moments against New York. And as a player at his age, I think the sky's the limit for him. So, you know, when you look at Jay and you look at James, I think we've got some real upside guys. And, you know, it really all depends on how they come in here and how they fit into the system and how they play with other guys. But I'm very hopeful that we can have a 3 or 4 good players at that position that can do a good job.
You've got a couple guys that are up for extensions in Benedict and Aaron. What can you say about that? You're playing at that point going
Can
forward.
can I just have like 24 hours, please?
No.
I mean, literally, guys.
Yeah, sure.
We went straight from the finals to the draft, to free agency, to summer league. Yeah, we'll look at all those kind of things, but I think that's a little premature. We've got all summer and
Right.
up until next year to do those. So, but they both had good years, and when I think about Aaron, I think about all those 3-pointers and changing a game in 5 minutes. It wasn't 8 points in 9 seconds, but it felt like right up there with it. And those guys, in my opinion, still have levels to move up. And that's what I like about this team. We're not this team that okay, that's what they are. They didn't make it. Let's go in a different direction. What I feel like is important is you keep this base of players and you look to use draft picks or other ways to go get another player that we feel like fits us. Because one thing is very clear now is we have a culture. Our players develop this incredible culture. And I will not bring an over-talented guy that doesn't feel like he fits the culture. We'd rather have guys like that can grow into our culture. And so that's our job now. And I don't know if it'll, again, you never know with trades.
Sure.
Sometimes tomorrow there can be a trade, and sometimes it's at the trade deadline. But we're going to be active. We're going to be as active as we've been. And if a big deal comes, I'm really excited about that possibility.
Kevin, have your expectations for this year changed with Ty's injury internally?
Expectations is a really hard word for me. Because if you would have said 2 years ago, my expectations were you're going to be Eastern Conference finalist and in 24 minutes from winning an NBA championship. So I think the one thing I've learned from that is you put the best players out on the court and you let them determine how good they become. And if you have enough talent, you tend to overachieve. And I can't over tell you this, that I have so much confidence in our coaching staff. Our coaching staff develops players, and they teach them a way that is not only, they get better as individuals, they get better as a team. And I feel like, we've done a good job of 1 + 1 + 1 = 10. And that's what as a manager of an organization, all I want is, can we tap out to our potential? And this year, I think we tapped out at the top level. And again, in my mind, no one can tell me that we weren't going to win a championship if Ty stays healthy.
Ty said,
That's biased. I understand that's very biased. But I really believe he had that eye of the tiger, man. He was coming out, and I saw our guys. Even at halftime, I felt like our guys felt like they could still win 24 minutes. And hat tip to Oklahoma City. They played great in that second half. The one thing I could tell you is within this group that I think you get very hungry to do it again and be playing at the highest level. This community, what they did, our fans were incredible. I've never seen more jerseys and shirts and flags. And, I had a lady I'm getting gas with. There was an older lady. She was in her 70s or 80s. And I had a Pacer hat, and she goes, "Hey, are you a Pacer fan?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm sort of a Pacer fan." And she looked at me, she's like, "I am so proud of this team. And I want them to win because I just like everybody on the team." And she goes, so what do you do? She asked me my name. She said, "Well, who are you?" I said, "I'm Kevin Pritchard." And then she goes, "What do you do for the team?" And I said, "Well, I'm part of a management group." And then I said my name, and she goes, "Never heard of you."
So Ty said he had.
We have time for a couple more, guys.
Yeah.
Ty said he had no regrets playing in Game 7, obviously rupturing his Achilles and things like that. How do you view just how all that went down? And was that a conversation that you all had with him? Like, hey, you could tear your Achilles.
We had that. We probably had 20 hours of calls and discussions, and the doctors, and we went to sort of the guy that's the best in the business, O'Malley, and he said it's a low probability. So I was in this unbelievable stressful balance of how do you tell a kid you can't play in Game 7 after you'd played in Game 6 and didn't have it, and that was the real kind of turning point, because he played with it, and we felt we were a little bit out of the woods, and we weren't, obviously, with me telling him you can't play in Game 7. And he's told me many times, this just shows you what kind of kid he is. I would do it over and over, and if you're asking me, would I have him do it over and over? I would not. I would not. If I knew that he was going to get hurt, I would sacrifice that game because I care for the kid so much and want him to have an incredible career. I have no doubt, that being said, I have no doubt that he will be back better than ever. The surgery went well. It was a little higher. It gets a little bit more blood to that. He will not play next year, though. We would not jeopardize that now. So don't get any hopes up that he will play. But again, we'll have some guys, and hopefully they'll have some opportunities to grow. And when he gets back, that'll be cherry on top, I guess.
What has Ty's mindset been since the surgery and as he starts to attack his rehab and recovery?
He's been doing great. And, I think the one thing that Ty feels is that the organization and maybe him personally, he was the most overrated player in the league according to his peers. And I think that he plays best when he's really hungry. And I'm guessing next year he's going to be chomping at the bit to prove everybody that he's back. And we're just going to have to take it slow and make sure he's back to 100%. And I expect great things, and him being an all-NBA player and hitting big shots, because we witnessed something like with clutch shot making that I'd never seen in the NBA. And I'd seen some pretty good basketball players in my time. So he's doing good, but the real work starts now in terms of rehab. And it's tough. When you take a player who loves basketball, Ty just doesn't love basketball. He talks about basketball. He is basketball. He'll text me like, did you see this player in college? Or, when you take away a life like that that's so important, he's going to have to find time to fill. And I've joked with him, he's just going to have to be my general manager for the next couple of years, which will be a lot better than Chad.
Hey, Dustin, last one.
Does that change how you view a calf injury going forward? I guess after seeing how this went down, are you going to take that decision more out of the hands of a player going forward?
So what we did is, I would tell you that we're doing a deep dive internally to figure out, are we doing everything we can on preventions? Or, what we know right now is that it's been 3 freak accidents. But I think it behooves us to take a hard look internally what we can do, and externally. A lot of teams, soccer, European soccer, they're doing some great stuff. But it's also a product of there's more cutting and more moving and more, hard cuts than there's ever been before. You have to guard that for 24 seconds, and you have to play it 24 seconds. Used to be the league was high pick and roll, put 2 guys in the corner, and you could stand around. But this activity, which is what we love, to me, when you're playing our flow game and the ball is moving and we move it 8-10 times to get an open shot, it takes a lot of energy to do that. But to me, it's poetry in motion. I love watching it, and I don't think anybody did it like we did it last couple of years. Again, a big credit to our coaching staff.
Sorry, guys, we have last one right here for James.
What do you see in Cam and Taylor that want to draft those guys and what they can add to your team?
It's interesting with Cam because I saw a little Drew, tough kid, loves the gym, lives for the gym. I like the fact that he played 2 and one. He was 2 guards the year before, then a point guard. But if you ever get around him, he reminds me of personality-wise like Ty. Like he's hyper positive, and he's watching from the sidelines, and he's got that kind of an it factor of that's a Pacer. You know, once you see a Pacer, like I can tell that guy's a Pacer, and he's a big-time worker, and you know, we're excited. He's dealing with a little bit of a hamstring issue right now, but he's getting over that, and we're going to watch that pretty closely. And Talon, it's interesting because when we looked at him and we put him on our rankings on the draft board, he was very high, and he's considered one of the best shooters in the league. And movement and shooting is what this league is about right now. And I think, look, they're both second rounders. We tend to like taking, you know, low risk, high reward kind of guys. We feel like both. I don't know how much they'll play next year, but you know, the thing that we've seen already is our second round pick, Furphy, he's gained 20 pounds, and he's been the best player out on our practice for Summer League. And, you know, we'll see how he does out there, but we think there's a chance he gets in our rotation in a big way. I mean, he's showing a lot of promise, and we're excited about him. So in the second round, they're a little bit flyers, but if they fit you culturally and they really want to work, they get better.
Thank you.